Do you believe that UEFA courses are fit for purpose?
What I would love, Stephen, is every single year the FA just transparently share feedback and things around courses, but that's not shared.
I asked the question on LinkedIn, is the football coaching system broken? There are currently thousands of coaches out there applying for the UEFA B and UEFA A diploma course. Out of these thousands, approximately 768 will get accepted each year. The rest are told to wait. I have friends who have been waiting for over 5 years. Here's the catch. They're unable to work at professional clubs or in academies, as to even get accepted for an interview, they require you to have at least a UEFA B or UEFA A certification. Today, I am joined by coach strategist for football coaches, Temisan Williams. Tem, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Stephen. It's great to be on, and this is a topic that I am absolutely passionate about.
Well, let's get right into it. What is your opinion on the current state of the football coaching system?
That's a big question. With the current climate of the coach education, I think there are things which were well-meaning, but we've caused ourselves more issues in the long term. So when I first started out, for example, your very first license, your FA level 1, that would be in person. I did it over a couple of weekends and there would be 24 candidates who were there. Now, you can do your FA level 1 online and there can be 1,000 people who do the course. So you have so many more coaches who are now entering the space. But when you look at, for example, the B license, I know we'll talk about it later, if that's not increasing in terms of the number of coaches who can go on to that course every single year, you're going to have this bottleneck, and the bottleneck is just getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Now, we know that there seems to be a big advantage for people like myself who have played the game for 17 years. I step out of football and I got accepted into my UEFA B license, for example, straight away. The PFA helped me through the process.
Yeah.
I'm supported as a former pro. Do you think that, well, firstly, is that fair? And secondly, do you think that you need to have been a professional football player in order to be a good coach?
Firstly, I have absolutely loved working with every single former pro that I've been able to coach with or been on courses with. And they've shown a fantastic level of humility of just wanting to learn because it's a completely new skill. I'll always remember Scott Parker saying that he's played in front of thousands, but then when he had to do a session to 10-year-olds, 11-year-olds, it was like one of the scariest things he had to do. For coaches who have never crossed the white line, they'll never know what that feeling is like on the pitch. And so there's incredible amounts of value there. At Arsenal, I was part of the minority who'd never played professionally or who played in academies. But when I first started out, that wasn't the case when I was at Southend. So I do think that it definitely helps, but at the end of the day, it's understanding the individual and having that emotional intelligence as well for those who are in front of you. And I think anyone can do that and have that empathy if they're willing to. And by doing that, I think you can definitely have a very, very successful career, because I've heard many managers say, look, it gets to a point where it's not necessarily about the tactics, it's how do I engage with the individual? How do I help get the best out of this individual and support them?
I'll be honest with you, Tim. I sit like bang in the middle, right? I actually do. I can see from both sides. I truly can. I can see a lot of former players have sat with me and said, it's ridiculous now that we've got so many people in the industry that they've never kicked a ball before. How they can't, if we're doing a drill, they can't even wrap the ball into the midfielder to receive it. They can't even do the demo. What's that about? How are they in the game now, bringing in all the data, bringing in all the statistics? Everyone's sat there with their iPads. Like, where's the game gone? The game's gone, right? I can understand an element of that, in my honest opinion. But then I also sit on the other side of that, where I sit with, I haven't worked with the likes of Francesco Farioli, and sit with a lot of coaches who have never kicked a ball, but have done so much groundwork that their understanding of football is second to none. It's phenomenal. And their presentation skills are incredible because they've mastered that. they've had to master that because it's the only way that they've been able to sort of compete with former players. But I guess my core belief is that no, you don't have to have played the game in order to be a successful coach. You're just going to have to work really, really, really hard, as the former players do as well. But there will be an advantage, a slight advantage, in my opinion, for the former pros.
Now, in terms of the skill of coaching, that is a skill, of course, that former pros haven't been doing because they've been playing, whereas coaches like myself, I've been doing coaching for 10, 12 years before then. Some of the former pros who I used to watch then have come and started coaching. So I think it's more a case of, have you been doing it during your career? Because I know some do. They do the coaching during the career, so the transition's a bit more seamless. But then also, you don't necessarily always have to start at the first team level. Of course, that's where you've been at. But I think understanding the pathway, so even maybe starting off with 15s, 16s, and then looking at the older age groups, it gives you an understanding of how players are growing through and developing through the academy system. So I don't necessarily think that ex-pros need to start at level one. I wouldn't say that at all. But I do think that it really depends on taking time for your development as opposed to just quickly trying to get to first team level.
You mentioned starting at the 15, 16s level, an academy, for example. I would say stripping it back even further is where the real learning is done. I've got friends at grassroots level, and they always invite me down. Come and take a session. Come and take a session. You've got a free evening. Come and take a session.
Yeah.
And I was a little bit reluctant to begin with, like, okay, but how's this going to help me on my path, my journey to be the next Premier League Pep Guardiola? How's this going to help? Actually, best learning I ever did. Honestly, the best learning I ever did. And now, whenever I have an opportunity to go and coach at grassroots level, I go all the time because that's where numbers are changing. So 1 minute you've got 10 players, next minute you've got 17 because the other 7 kids have just turned up 10 minutes late. You've got players who are not necessarily understanding the drill, so you're having to simplify things, and then you've got other players who are above that level, whereas academies got kind of, you walk in and people just understand it, right? They've already been there, they've been trained for such a period of time. So I would say the education for whether you're an ex-player or someone who's just come out of university, I think should be the same. However, whether we get the job or not depends on the club or the person employing you, right? But I do believe, going back to the educational side of things, that we should all be given the equal right to education. So I'm curious for you, working with a lot of these coaches, some who have played the game, some who haven't, do you feel that the system is fair, the way in which it's designed, that, okay, they're only allowed to accept 768 coaches approximately in 2025, right? But probably out of those 768, a large percentage of those were ex-pros. Do you think that's fair, or should there be something else done? And if there is, what is there? Have you got any suggestions?
That's a really good question. And so I think just to clarify, the PFA would be slightly separate to it. So you wouldn't fill all sort of half that with ex-players. It would still be, a large number would still go to those who've worked within grassroots. But I do think that the numbers that we have available for coaches to get onto courses is a significant challenge. And it needs to incrementally increase. Approximately 5,000 in 2024 apply for the B license, and then 1,000, therefore 1,200 places. So approximately just over 20%. Now, when you went to 2025, of course, you're getting those who got rejected, plus those who are now eligible from their C license to go for the B license. So approximately last year, you had about 6,000 for those 768 places. That's the issue. You're now having less courses, but there's more coaches who need to get onto the courses.
Crazy. That's, I mean, really insightful to understand, actually, how low the chances are of becoming a professional coach. I mean, I thought the chances of becoming a professional football player were extremely low, but obviously as a coach, it seems to be even tougher. I also want to mention the price. So we're looking at currently in England, for the UEFA B course, it's £1,200. For the UEFA A cost, it is £4,000. And for the UEFA Pro, it costs £13,700. Now, are we outpricing a lot of talent that might be working in grassroots football that simply aren't earning enough to be able to fund these courses?
That is a great question. And that's why the first thing I always say to coaches is that you need to be able to fund your own journey. For the level 1, the level 2, and even the UEFA B, there's a potential to get 85% discount for all of those, depending on the 4 criterias of whether you're female, your background, ethnicity, if you're disabled, if you have a disability, and also socioeconomic. When it gets to the B license, there's only, for example, 20% spaces, so which means that majority will still need to pay for it. I say to coaches, look, this is the reality. If you want to apply for your B license, for example, in a year's time, if you just work 2 extra hours and you save up that over a space of a year, then you can pay for it. The prices will not be reduced because since I started coaching, they have only increased. I know that coaches have looked abroad as well, or looked at Wales, Scotland, Ireland, but here's the issue, Stephen, is that if you get your B license from, for example, Wales, you still won't be able to get into the academy because you need a B license from England. When we look at the higher licenses, so the A license, and then also the Advanced Youth Award, so if you include that in there, which is £3,435, overall from your level 1 to your pro license, you would be spending £24,135 for all of your licenses if you want to work right the way through to be a manager. Is it out of sync with other industries? Not necessarily in terms of the price, but what I always say to coaches is that it's the value. Do you see the value in it? So, for example, if you knew that Pep Guardiola was delivering your A license and it was 4,000, you probably wouldn't batter an eyelid. But are they seeing enough value in what they're getting? I think that's the real issue that we're facing. And of course, they want to get roles, and it's incredibly difficult to get roles within academies. They usually, if you're category 3 club, category 4 club, you're probably getting 200 applicants for every single position. By the time you get to category 1, you're probably getting about 800. And now we're seeing coaches who earlier are going to America, going to UAE. Why? Because of course financially they can earn a lot better on a lower qualification.
You know what, that bit is the bit that surprised me the most in my very young coaching journey, is actually how low the pay is in a lot of academies. And then if you are one of the lucky ones to get the job after a series of interviews, because I've been doing the process myself, it's nobody just handing you the job. There's a lot of interviews and a lot of hours that go into the interview process. You're then giving a job which is below the UK average, which makes it extremely difficult when you're sat there going, okay, if I'm going to climb this ladder, I'm going to have to climb through the academies, which can take a really long time, and you're not guaranteed the end result. It's going to cost you a lot of money, and then you get to the top and you're a manager for 4 weeks before the owner decides to sack you. So it is a really difficult job. I'm not here trying to put anyone off. I absolutely love coaching, love it way more than I actually enjoy playing. But it is a tough journey. Is that a fair reality?
It completely is. And I do have to say, though, I think scouts get it even harder than us, because I've also done a bit of talent ID, and the wage was cut in half. But in terms of coaching, look, it's great to be a coach, and I absolutely loved the time that I spent as a coach within academies. I did other work alongside it, which meant that it was okay. And when I got into clubs, there were people who I knew who owned their own businesses, etc. So it wasn't a case where they were depending on the salary as much. And that's why career switchers, whenever I work with career switchers, I say to them, you're probably in one of the best positions because you've already got an established career. You've already maybe had your house, etc., mortgage. And when now you're coming in at a financially settled place. So when you have to do things like volunteering or there's lower pay initially, you are actually still okay.
What would be your ideal solution for those wanting to become, Premier League managers, or for those wanting to work in academies, whatever level they desire to get to? What would be your solution around their step-by-step process?
I can't see there being a solution until we either stem the tap when it comes to the online courses, especially with the level 1, because there's just too many coaches who are being qualified, and then it's really constricted by the time it gets to the B license, and there's not enough coach educators. The second thing is the distance between when you finish and when you can apply for your next badge. I know that may be challenging for coaches to hear, but at the moment you've got to wait 12 months to go C license to B license and then B license to A license. You might have to just extend that because coaches are being rejected usually once or twice now. It's common. And then lastly, I think we've got to look at the EPPP. So of course you need to be a B license to be employed, but for example, could it be that for the category 3 academies, actually they can accept a UEFA C license, not be marked down on the audit, because that's the reason why clubs can't do it, because they'll be marked down on the audit. So if you can take a C license coach, but then maybe but they have to be in 24 months, they have to either be on the B license or they have qualified in their B license. Then that will open up the opportunities more for coaches. University students who are finishing won't feel like, well, I just don't have an opportunity, or I have to wait 2, 3, 4 years to be able to even get my foot in the door. Then on my Coach Accelerator Masterclass community, this is one thing that nobody ever told me when I was going through my journey, but I realized probably had the biggest impact, which was networking. I use this phrase to coaches. I say to them, your qualifications are your dress code, your network is your ticket. And even yesterday, I spoke to a coach who's at a club who's doing hiring. And he said to me, Tammy, look, I can tell you all these coaches here, probably only one who came through and we didn't actually know who they were. But yeah, this person knew this person knew this person, this person knew this person. So that's part of it that I think many coaches need to understand. And that's why I support coaches in what I'm doing in that way.
On a fundamental level, do you believe that UEFA courses are fit for purpose?
FA level 1, I'll be honest, I don't see that as a coaching course. The reason why is because you're not doing anything on the grass. I think you have to be on the grass for it to be considered a coaching course. It gives you information, but until you're there and a kid has a snotty nose and is not listening and wants to go and pick up grass, then you don't really have an understanding of what it actually looks like and feels like. The UEFA C license, unfortunately, there's more online aspects that have been added, which I understand the era that we're in now, but again, it takes away from that face-to-face. So for me personally, I see the UEFA C license as actually the level 1 course. And then I now see the UEFA B license as effectively a, if you like, UEFA C point 0.5, because it's, again, the second time that they've been involved in a face-to-face qualification. I think in terms of fit for purpose, it really depends on the coach educators you have. What I would love, Stephen, is every single year, the FA just transparently share feedback and things around courses. But that's not shared. Having transparency is really critical for the FA to know that, okay, the feedback, this is how we're acting, look, this is what we've done for you on the courses now, so that you feel this is more fit for purpose. And then, of course, from the coaches, they feel as though they're getting the value and that they're being listened to, and there is incremental benefit and betterment in the courses as well. I would strongly say that there needs to be an FA level 1 that's face-to-face, and I think the FA may be doing it back with the youth modules, because I thought the youth modules were great. Those were some of the best courses, definitely. And anyone who you speak to who's done the youth modules and the Advanced Youth Award, they would say a similar thing.
I haven't just recently done my UEFA B and my UEFA A. Well, in recent years, I would say that my course tutors were fantastic. I absolutely loved both my UEFA B and my UEFA A tutors and courses. I enjoyed the whole package. That wasn't the same experience for everybody. A lot of people would say to me on the same course as me, I'm not enjoying this. What's this about? I haven't learned anything. I went into it with an open mind. You know, I have a lot of regrets as a player, and I want to have zero regrets as a coach, if that's possible. So the way I see it is to go, okay, be open-minded and give 100% in everything that I do. And having done that, I feel that I benefit a lot from the courses. I think that someone mentioned a really good way of doing things on LinkedIn, actually, when we opened this debate, which was, why not grade the students, because we are effectively students, the coaches, at the end of the course? Why not grade us? And I think that was a really good idea.
That's what I had, Stephen. That's why I'm so surprised, because when I did my UEFA B license, we all got graded. That's what happened, and that's why I thought it was a fantastic course when I did it. So Of course, they don't do it now, but for me, that was brilliant.
Yeah, I would have to agree. I never actually knew they used to do that. So as I said, I'm in
Yeah.
the modern era where you're just given you a pass or fail, and I think that actually grading us is a really good way to do things.
Sometimes the old way isn't necessarily the bad way.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, true. Temi-san, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you with us today. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing your wisdom. If you
Thank you.
enjoyed this episode of Coaching Session, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment below on your thoughts on the current coaching system.